Well, welcome back to the channel. Today we're at St. Bertoline's Church, Barthomley. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And this tells us all about what's here. The original church tower was built in the 15th century. The present clock face dates to 1716. Tells us all about the village, what's here. And there is a walk here, but I don't think I'm going to do all this. Is the Two Saint Way, a recreational pilgrimage walk of about 90 miles. Well, I won't be doing that this morning. So we're going to have a look at the church, have a look at the graveyard, and perhaps some of the walk, but I'm certainly not doing 90 mile. This church, if I can get it in the light, has got some of these rare, I don't know what they are really, they look like monsters to me. Well, we're inside the church, which is pretty rare nowadays because most churches are locked up. Look at some of the windows. The original church, I think, goes back to the 1500s, and some ancient wood there. It does tell us it goes back to the 15th century. Some nice little figures. I don't know whether that's to bludgeon people to come into church or whether it's from the bells. It does have the history of the area. Just trying to work out what that is, but it goes back to 1303. Oh, the priest's in charge from what I can see. The light's not the best in here at the moment. Obviously this children's Sunday school. But we have got a complete history all the way along here of the church. Sundial, the Romans were here. In the 1900s the Windsors were here. 1700s the Bell of Barthomley, 1743, the clock tower 1716. And there was sort of a revolution where a lot of the people hid in the church, and the soldiers eventually came and got them out. 1500s, the altar table. 1600s. So quite interesting one. Sir Robert's tomb, effigy on the Crewe chapel, in his armour and chainmail. This goes back to the 1300s. I'll even go back to the 1100s. And even before that. And this is the Crewe chapel, and it's a bit spooky that. It looks very alive. That's the one in the armour. I'm struggling with the light of it, but that really stands out. I don't think I can get to see back there properly what it is. And this is sealed too. I don't suppose we can read that. No. It really is quite spooky, but it's locked up, so you can actually view it through these barriers, which is actually, locked. And I can get a bit lower to see, but it can be spooky. That one's quite sort of ancient, and that one looks almost alive. It's just a pity they don't have more lights on. I've got the other window. This is the main part of the church. Tablet recorded that the chancellor was restored, and the last window given by Robert Offley, Marquess of Crewe. I've got all these portraits. In memory of those that died 1939, 1945. And a view around the church. Obviously I did have Harvest Festival recently with the scythe. There's a small chapel, we would describe it. Oh. Don't know whether we can see that. There's lots of the light's not good enough to sort of actually make out what they are. So a lot of churches that are open do sort of turn the lights on when somebody enters, but this one's got minimal lights on. Again, evidence of the Harvest Festival. And some grand portraits here. I can read that. 1740. Another grand one here. There's no actual idea who that is. And this pew here apparently is for the bell ringers. Obviously you get a brew. Another grand window. I just looked at this little chapel. Very often get what's called a ladies' chapel, where it's an organ screen apparently. So that's the details of that. Very often the ladies had their own little chapel. It was called the ladies' chapel. Again, more evidence of the harvest. Just so many churches are closed nowadays, and there's signs up there, something the heavens, the work of the lights that poor, I can't sort of make that out at all. More windows. I can see all the pews leading to the altar. Again, because of the light, it's very hard to sort of read some of this, but some very old signs. There is a bit of a light, but it's in the wrong place to read some of these signs, but it's 1752. I've even got a book of accounts here. The school got 5p, is it? Again, there's another one of those, whatever they are, which is really sort of an ornate piece of furniture. Just looking at the roof, there's nothing, very often you get something exciting on the roof, but not particularly exciting. Little poster about it. I think that's about as much as we can actually see inside the church, so we'll go and have a look at some of the graves. There's supposed to be one, if you can find it, that goes back to the 1600s. We'll just have a scan around the church so you can see. So there's lots of other lights, but they're not on. And just notice those two figures. You can get a focus on it. There's one there and one there. So we'll now go and have a look at the graveyard. We'll have a look at some of the graves, and we start near the pub. And there's a lot of old graves. You can't quite make that date out of them. These sort of graves always last well. 1886. It's a churchyard with a lot of these laid down. It's not clear whether some of these laid down ones were originally there or whether the grave's been moved and the stone. Well, these going back to 1765. A lot of sort of mini tombs. I always managed to get a modern one in it somewhere. So this will be quite high status because it's got quite a lot of metal on it. 1909, the original one was 1884. This is quite a modern, or somebody fairly modern, 2000. Again, we come across this 1861, somebody aged 10 months, and another one 7 months. So we've come across that before. It's very common to find young children dying in the 1800s. Another one here from 1932, which has been taken over a bit by the hedge. Again, these are the sort of graves to have because these seem to last forever. Another really old one. That one there is 1671. It's interesting how some, even though they're old, like this, you can't really read what it is. But this one, because it's cut a bit deeper, you can see it's only 1915 though, but it's how deep they cut the lettering that seems to make the difference. Another one 1829, a cross here. Quite a modern one, big Celtic cross, a bit of a different grave that one, 2015. (1911). 1928, 1941. See how they tend to be sort of grouped by dates. Certain dates you'll find a lot in one corner, and using 1916. That's quite an ornate one that the ivy's taken. 1838, is it? Some of these 1901s, the original birchwood, it's a family grave, so the original one was 1891. So you can see that that's quite clear. And that one's a bit different, it's 1890, but it's very hard to read. We do sort of have a mixture. We've got, can't make the date on that one. (1900s), 1892. So you've got some old graves, and then they've managed to get some younger graves in with it. It's reasonably well kept, this graveyard. (1899). All these are fairly sort of modern ones, these. Obviously a very recent one there by the looks of it. Little angel there. Another row. Can't make out half these what they are. Such a shame, because in America you tend to get people come and actually tidy the graves even if it's not their grave. These are well, I can say rusted, but it's not rust, is it? In 1894, 1892. I mean, see the state of that one, that's really well preserved considering how old it is. Yeah, the one next to it, there's a difference in the stone. Can't make out what that says. Now we do come across this here now. This is obviously super high status because it's all chained off. So it's the Hungerford family, 3rd Lord of Crewe, 1894. It's obviously a family tomb, I can't make that one out. Richard Archibald John Luke and Hungerford, Earl of Madeley. Why he's buried here and not in Madeley is a question. Robert Offley Asprey, Marquess of Crewe. It's certainly very high status, that is. All under the tree. Some big tombs here. Well, we can make these out. Remember George Thwaites, is it? Surgeon. 1848. Another one, 1824. More flat ones. A lot of them are sandstone and they sort of soon rot. Another again, a well preserved one. And again, there's a whole area of these flat stones. Another big tomb there. Ivy's taken over. You can't read that at all. Still in the sort of 1800s. We're getting a sort of a mixture of modern graves and old graves as well. There's the church from outside and we can see those gargoyles or whatever they are. Actual sky's lit up a bit now as well. A bit frightening them. So a lot of these are fairly sort of modernish, 1953. And you've got these big tombs here. This is sort of a war grave because it's not the normal sort of. You can have a war grave you can keep yourself, or the War Graves Commission put the gravestone on, but this one's obviously a private war grave, so to speak. There's one a little bit different here, with stones on it. 2004. I don't know what the idea of the stones is. Again, so many of these flat ones, and you feel so disrespectful walking on them. 1713, 1753, 1780. They all seem to be 1700s. Now that's a different one, isn't it? I can't read it properly. George Steele Budley fell asleep 1729. What is that symbol supposed to be? Not quite what's happened with this one. This is obviously an old vicar, formerly rector of this parish, born in Barthomley, 1800s, died 1878. So that you know, from 1800, presumably somebody's repainted this. But another one, 1729. So we don't know whether these are original or they have been grazed and laid flat. Oh, 7, 20. One or two old graves. Yeah, most of the fairly sort of modern ones. 1949. Again, some flat ones. 1891. That was a bit of a mystery one that's sort of been taken over by nature. I think there might be two there. Can't make out what it is, but there's definitely one there. And I think there is another one that's right under there. More flat stones. The place is just riddled with them, and some are starting to crack because the ground's safe underneath. 1757, 1729. 1705. Just so many of them. 1796. Around the front there's quite a lot of it's quite sparse around the front, which is a bit strange. All these flat stones, but all this area is fairly grave free. Got three big, I don't know what you really call them, a tomb. And you can't really sort of read them. Again, another, well, two high status ones. I mean, they've gone to serious trouble with these. The steel on these is a bit of serious stuff. Of course, they're covered in ivy, so you can't work out who they are. Nice to see somebody's put flowers on one there. A little one there that's 1870. I've not found it today. There is a one back to the 1600s somewhere, but it's very, very small. Just a view of the church outside. Different gargoyles. So obviously Barthomley's like 5 minutes away from Crewe, Shavington and what have you. What is interesting are these little gargoyles, whatever you want to call them, as you go into the church. And this was one of the bishops, I think, with glasses. which is quite sort of rare in a way, and apparently it was frowned upon to have glasses. Obviously that's supposed to be Christ, and there's some woman there, whoever she's supposed to be, and she looks a bit fearsome. As part of viewing the church, viewing the cemetery, there's also this country walk. So if you wanted to do a country walk as well, it's a bit spooky, this is, in a way. It's a little woodland with a pond that's cleared a bit now. About an hour ago it was all misty. So it's a nice country walk. Again, if you want a country walk and didn't come to the church for the church sort of thing. It does open out in a minute to the main field. Like always, there's usually wildlife around here. You can hear some. As soon as you put a camera on, they all shut up. And there is sort of paths off sort of there, and one sort of there. If you're brave and want to go exploring, just go a little bit, because it's clearly a path here. If you like woodlands, I'll say it is a little bit spooky, and got things that grab you. When it does come to this main gate, which takes you out to the main public footpath. Wonderful country walk, and then this apparently you can walk through to Audley. It's not quite, there's a little bit here not quite clear what it is, because that's obviously the vicarage, but there's some look like apple trees here. There's a grand old seat. It's a bit strange that, because it says private property, no trespassing, and I'm already in it, so I didn't know that until I got in it. But you can walk across to Audley, so it's a nice country walk if you fancy a nice country walk. We just met 3 girls that are doing it as part of this 90-mile course, which takes you to Cheshire Cathedral and Lichfield and God knows where. Won't be doing the 90 miles this morning.